Are you winning? Do you need help in your life or business? Could you use some inspiration, business strategies, and success principles? I'm Daniel Gomez, award-winning business coach, keynote speaker, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you create a successful life and elevate your business. Together, we will discover the keys that unlock your success and dreams. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate you, we inspire you. And today, man, we're going to educate you. We got a special treat right here from my own city, San Antonio, Texas. Yes, we're coming up here in San Antonio. We got our very own Marc Ebinger. Marc, welcome to the show, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Daniel. Pleasure to be here.
Bro, I know the epic human being you are, but we're going worldwide, right? We have one of the top podcasts in the world. And first of all, I want to say thank you to our audience out there. Thank you for making us one of the top, not just here in Texas, in America, but globally. Marc, tell the world, who is Marc Ebinger, my brother?
Well, I'm a retired police officer from here in San Antonio. I did 24 years here, had a really exciting and fun career, but wanted to go out and start my own business. So I retired and then got on to KTSA radio, did some of that, had a good time doing that, and then ended up on podcasts because, I mean, that's where you end up going. So you own everything about what you're doing and you can do it how you want to do it. So did that. And then I just kind of fell into a virtual staffing company because I needed help. And I was like, I don't really want to, let me save some money and let me get skilled employees at a rate that I can afford without all the red tape and everything else that comes with hiring here in the United States. And I figured out how to do that. So then I'm like, well, this is something that would be good for other entrepreneurs. So I just started building a company around that. I've got a team now that does the staffing and HR management for folks. So if people are looking to, get skilled remote workers and save some money, and with a company that has some integrity behind it, then that's, they'll find me. And I do a lot of networking now, especially through Business Networking International, or BNI as it's called, which some people like, some people hate, some people don't really care. But, when you know how to network properly, it's like, that's a grand slam, man. There's so many people you can network with there, and they're all going to be, well, I say all, but most of them are going to be people that are on purpose about their networking, which makes all the difference in the world.
So if I can't network, you're going to help me because I'm not a good networker. I just like to go have fun.
Yeah, well, I love to have fun, but then it's part of my goal is to connect the people I'm having fun with to people that they want to connect with so that they can grow their network and do more business. And it's so simple. I have a formula that I use, and then and people are like all around me are like, okay, well, I didn't know you could do that. And I didn't really know that this is a good formula, and it just works, man. And it's about helping other people get what they want. We've heard that statement, right? Help others get what they want and you'll get what you want, right? Which could be a self-serving statement, but the way that I live it day in and day out is I truly give just nonstop. I just love to help other people get what they want. And then it does that karma, reciprocity, wherever you want to call it, it comes back around to you. And it's a fun thing to be a part of. So I'm really enjoying my second career.
Man, well, we're honored to have you here on the show with us. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a part of the show where we say, get out your pen, get out your paper, because Marc's going to drop some massive wisdom. And you know what we say here? When you write down, you retain more than half the information. So get out your pen and get out your paper, take some notes, go back and watch this episode a second time, because Marc is not just going to talk about business. He's going to drop some massive wisdom in many different areas. Marc, you said something that really caught my attention, because I think so many people get caught up in their old identity. And you said you were a police officer. Is that correct? So how does somebody go from being a police officer to having a VA business and then having one of the top podcasts in Texas? Talk to me about that, man.
Well, I think, as a police officer, which, I did 5 years on the street as a patrolman, then I did 3 years in homicide, then I did, about 16 years as a sergeant. And as a sergeant, you have lots of choices. I worked all over the city, and then I worked internal affairs for 6 years. And that's important because that's where I learned to listen to people and to communicate well. Because one of the biggest mistakes that an internal affairs sergeant can do is as soon as somebody starts complaining about an officer, they try and excuse the officer's behavior, or they cut them off to try and hurry through the call, and the other person doesn't feel heard. And so they get
Mm,
upset. And now it's the whole department is in on whatever that officer did, kind of a thing. And I learned really, really fast to just listen and to communicate well. And that's the top skill that a police officer has, is the ability to talk to people and to listen and to show empathy, compassion. And at times when it's necessary, then we have to take action. So we're not listening and using empathy from a place of weakness. We are using it from a place of strength. But it's still it's well rounded, and the person feels heard. And at the end of the day, that's the important thing, is it's the other person. So on behind the microphone, it's not about me as the interviewer. Nobody, look, if I talk all the time during my podcasts, then the audience is like, okay, well, we get it. Why did you bring this guest on if you're not even going to let him talk? Right. So it's not about me. The show is never about me. In fact, I have 5 co-hosts on my show because, again, it's not about me. I'm just the moderator. I'm the facilitator. But it's about my co-hosts, and it's about my guests having conversations and getting out information that ultimately is the real winner of the show, is the listener or the viewer of the show, that can come away with some really good information, hear that piece that's going to resonate within them, and let them get to wherever it is they're trying to get to. So that's the path. It's police officers, good ones, are good communicators, are good listeners. And then I just kind of took it from there. And then it's always been a dream of mine to build a company. And so I had to figure out how to do that when a retirement.
so let's hold on real quick because you said
Sure.
something good. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what Mark's saying. Ask yourself this question. Am I a good listener? And put your name in front of this question too, right? If you're out there watching Rick, say, is Rick a good listener? Because I love what we're talking about, Mark, because I truly believe most people they listen to react instead of listen to understand. And that's what I heard you say. There's a huge difference in listening to react and listening to understand. And I think I would say, I don't know what the percentage is, but if I had to guess, I would say easily over 80% of people, they listen to react instead of really, right? Everybody wants to put in their 2 cents. And maybe that's why you're such a good networker, because you really listen to what people are saying. As to whenever I go to a networking event, it's like everybody wants to talk about them. It's like, well, it's kind of like a turnoff to say, and you gotta really, I believe there's different levels of networking event where people talk at different levels, but I love what you're saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, think about what Mark is saying. Are you a good listener? Maybe your life isn't where it wants it to be. Maybe your business is struggling in sales because instead of trying to listen to what your customer needs and wants are, you're too busy trying to pitch and pitch and pitch, and you're not listening to what the needs are. What's your what's your perspective on that, Mark? Do you think most people are just listening to react or listening to truly
No,
understand?
I think that's the default setting, because the world is so fast paced now that we're in a hurry to get where we want to go, which causes us to be a little bit more in that listening to respond rather than listening to understand, and then guiding the conversation through well placed questions, because
Mm,
that's them still talking, but you can direct that in a positive way, right? Because you're trying to get what's best for both of you. Why are you talking? If you're at a networking mixer, for example, and you're asking questions, or they're talk about whatever, and then you're like, well, what kind of connections would be good for you to help your business where it's at? Now you're directing that conversation to some place that's meaningful for both of you. Because as soon as they tell you, well, I need to connect with X, Y, and Z, and you're like, you know what? X is standing right over here and Y is standing right over here. And I know both of these folks. Why don't we take a second? I'll introduce you to them. Now, what did that do for him or her? That made them feel heard and makes them feeling special and excited about what's going to happen. And then where's that? That's a lot of emotion happening there. And people who are in a positive emotional state, that's how they open themselves up to other things that maybe, well, to buying, for example, right? Not that I'm selling right away, but ultimately I'm trying to create a positive relationship so that they'll be open to what it is that I have if it's something that they need. And when you give that kind of that kind of give at a networking event where most people don't get that because they're too busy talking and not really meeting or being introduced
Yeah.
to somebody, that warm handoff, then you're playing at a different level when it comes to networking, because they're going to be happy and you're going to receive, because that's just the natural flow of things.
I love what you're saying because I think about so many people. When you listen to React, you miss the opportunity that's right in front of you. And what Mark is saying, when you listen to understand and really hear the people you're in the room with, most of the times that person you're praying for to help you, to guide you, or your business is struggling, they're in the same room and you don't even see them because you're too busy not understanding. And what I mean by that is, right, I think about, we just had our event here in San Antonio, our Sticker Shock Speaking Academy, and we had three people that were referrals to us. And these were great referrals, right? Because they came to our event, had an amazing time. They loved it so much. They ended up buying another product or service from us. But it all came from a referral from a client that we really listened to. And I think when you listen, you're able to solve people's problems. And but when you're too busy just listening to react, you miss the problem that you're able to solve. And when you can hear deeper, like you're saying, that's where the magic happens, Mark.
Yeah, and that's I know this isn't a religious show, but there's always something to learn from certain religions and how things happen. But one of the things that I know Jesus would do when he was pressured or when he was asked questions is that he would in turn ask questions. So there's a lot of power in just asking questions because it provokes people to think. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And to come up with something new. Because if they're just pitching and then you've got a question, especially if it's meaningful to them, it delivers a lot more value that they weren't even expecting. And again, it gets you both to where you're trying to get to. So I enjoy those kinds of moments where you can have that kind of an impact and they weren't even expecting it.
Well, let me ask you this. You came out of being a police officer for many years. What was the hardest part of your transition? Because I think for myself, being one of the top business coaches in Texas, what I see hinders a lot of my clients, people that I work with that are struggling. They're holding on to an old identity that no longer serves them. And for example, maybe they were a waiter, as example, at gyms, right, or at IHOP, and then they come in to entrepreneurship, but they still want to think like that old waiter, and then they embrace that identity more than they do as a successful entrepreneur, or just a business owner. Or if you're right, if you're coming from a banking background, you want to think like a banker instead of thinking like an entrepreneur person. So what do you see in that, right? What did you have to overcome for yourself that was, because you've been in business a long time now, what's one of the main one or two things that you really had to overcome that you can drop some massive wisdom for our audience today?
Well, I think it's pretty common for folks coming out of an employee setting and that's when a police officer is an employee, right? They have an employee mindset. And, an entrepreneur's world, if you're trying to start, grow a business, not just a job, but an actual business, it's a completely different world. It requires a completely different mindset. So that's the transition that is extremely difficult if you try and do it on your own. What
Mm.
you need help, right? You need resources, you need community, you need to surround yourself with people who think differently, think bigger, and then leave yourself open to, new information. However, being not buying every little thing that drops in front of you. You know what I mean? Just because somebody's successful over here doing something doesn't mean you need to spend a lot of money to go doing something, whatever it is that they're doing. Take your time, get to know yourself, but then you do have to take risks. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, that's in the definition, is risk taking, pivoting, dealing with problems, problem solving. That's another good thing, that as a police officer, it's constantly problem solving. Entrepreneurship, constantly problem solving. So those kind of things really do complement each other in a way, but you have to learn and you have to be open to and really change your circles. You know what I mean? Because if
Mm.
you stay surrounded by other employees and like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and they're, well, of course they're not going to see it. They're going to be like, well, that's not going to work. Right? Well, that's what they're
That's a
thinking,
vital
like
key.
employees.
You know, what you just said right there, that's the gem right there that I think most people miss. For instance, they want to start a podcast, but they don't want to hang around with podcasters. They want to hang around with their old group of friends or their old the old identity people. You have to change your circle, like you said. How crucial is that? Because I think most people, I think we hear something so much, right? You hear it. You're the sum of the five people you hang around with the most, or right, who's in your Fab Five. But the truth is, if you don't change that circle, you're never going to become the person that you were destined to be. How hard was that for you?
It's still something that I work on. It's like, I've got uh, friends from the old circle, and I've got some friends from the new circle, but it's a matter of finding, now that I know what I'm looking for, searching for those right folks, right? You vibe well with, they're cool people, they have great insight. Well, I want more of that. Well, then just think about it. I want more of that, and let's start attracting more of that, and then start running in those circles. So, but it's not an overnight thing. It is something that you cultivate. Real relationships are something that you cultivate. They don't just happen instantly. Now you could find them quick, but again, it's over time. Some of the best relationships we had were when we were kids in school, and there's some of that that's always there. That doesn't mean they're a good influence on today, but there's a kinship there that'll last for a lifetime. So don't be in a hurry for it, but just be ready for it.
Mm. Mm. So let me ask you this: what was the one hardest transition you had to make from going to who you were coming into business?
It's the mindset. It's absolutely the mindset. You have to think differently. As a police officer, you go in, you solve the situation, and that's it. That's the end of it. And that's the end of this one, because now I'm on to the next call, right? Unless I'm
Yeah.
working homicide cases, and those things can take years. But the mindset of the entrepreneur is different. It's very much like it's problem solving, but it's at a different level. But you have education, you have to learn, you have to just all of the pieces. I could kind of go on, but managing employees is its own thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, not all my employees are overseas. And so that's a whole other layer of, well, how do you do that? And we do it, and we do it well. And I've created infrastructure, but nobody really taught me how to do that. You just kind of figure it out as you go along. There wasn't a roadmap on starting your own virtual assistant staffing company. I had to kind of create it. There's other people that are doing it out there, but not the way that I would want to do it. So that's mindset was the biggest thing for me, and that's something that I still work on even today.
Are you an aspiring speaker? Do you have a book that you've been wanting to write for months, maybe even years? Or are you an aspiring podcaster? You want to start that podcast like the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show and don't know where to start? Well, at Daniel Gomez Enterprises, we can help you do all three. We can help you become that paid speaker, share your story to the world, write your book, and get your podcast launched and help you produce it. We'd love to help you. Give us a call at 210-663-5954. That's 210-663-5954. We can help you become that paid speaker, write that book, and launch your podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, think about what we're talking about today. Where are you stuck in your life? Where are you stuck in your, maybe you're saying, Daniel, I'm not a business owner, but I love your show. Well, where are you stuck in your career? Maybe you've plateaued because your way of thinking, you haven't invested in that, or you're hanging around with the same old people over and over, and you're getting the same result, but you're not happy with your life. There comes a point where you got to think about, right, who are the five people that I hang around with the most? And are they adding value to you? I think so many people, you get comfortable, right? Write this down, ladies and gentlemen. What you tolerate, you're never going to change. And that's true for relationships. What you tolerate, you're never going to change. And you have to be willing to grow and to change and really work on your mindset, like Mark said. So let me ask you this, Mark. I love what we're talking about. What were two things that you did to really go from that employee mindset to have that business mindset? What are two things that you really kind of worked on and put in practice for yourself? Because sometimes I feel like people go to event after event or to listen to stuff or studies, right? They know it, but they don't apply it. They know it, but they don't execute it. They know it, but they don't walk it out every day. What are two practical things that you did to go from who you were to who you've become? Successful podcaster, very successful business. Talk to us about that.
So, trying to work on that new circle type thing was, so networking was a big thing that I got involved in. And networking challenges you on a number of different levels, because there's responsibilities in being part of a referral group, because you're supposed to bring a referral on a regular basis, and everybody, I say everybody, but a lot of people dread it because it's like, oh, I didn't get a referral and it was a quick week and now I'm here again, blah blah blah. So that's a wheel that a lot of people get on in networking, that I had figured my way out of. And it kind of came to me just out of nowhere. I figured out, well, that's not the mindset to approach networking with. So, but once I figured that part out, it was easy. Now I can bring 10, 15, 20 referrals in a week, and it's not overly complicated. And it's like, people don't even understand how I can get those kind of numbers, but it's easy once you know how to do it. And it's you don't have to overthink it. So I'd say, networking was a huge thing. That was a big challenge for me because I was one of those guys that would bring one referral a month kind of a thing. I didn't really know what I was doing there. So that was a big one. And then I think the other one is on the company side of things, growing the company out, is unfortunately learning by trial and error and learning from my own mistakes. But I have a heart to do right by my client and to do right by my virtual assistants, so that is a good, healthy relationship between the two of them, that they would enjoy being together for long term. So that's the heart of how I approach every problem that I solve. But yeah, I think I'm a little thick headed on some things. I like to just jump in the water and figure out whether it was deep enough for me to jump in. I can be that way. I don't see that changing necessarily. I guess it could out of necessity, but right now, I guess it's not a necessity. I'm doing okay with building the company that way.
Yeah, well, it's part of taking risk. I think so many people, they want to start a business and they want a safety net, right? It's like they're going to the circus. You want to have all the excitement, and then you have the people on the trapeze, and what do you call that, where they're swinging up high? And
Trapeze, yeah.
what's more exciting, without the net or with the net? Without the net. And so many people want to take that leap, but they want a safety net, and it doesn't work that way. I was talking this past weekend at our event, and I was telling one of the attendees, he's like, "Would you have done it again?" I was like, "Probably not. Of all the tears I knew I had to cry, and all the betrayals I was going to go through, and then if I would have known this was going to cost me this much money to invest in me, like I thought when I did my first investment of 5,000, I was done, right? I'm set for life, Mark." And I'm like, "Nope, you got to invest more in yourself. So we have to be willing to take a risk." What was the hardest? What's the biggest risk you've taken so far in business?
Well, I think trying to hire and train my own sales team, which was, something I felt like I could do. I had some help on it, but at the end of the day, it was a complete flop. And it cost me, a bit of money, and, and a couple of bumps and bruises, right? You probably still see a couple of them, but it's just one of those things. But yeah, hiring and training a sales team, when I wasn't ready, that was the biggest challenge. Yeah.
So what would you tell to somebody right now? They're watching and listening to our show, and they just had a biggest flop, whether it's training a sales team, they launched a new product, it didn't, they feel like giving up. They feel discouraged right now, Mark. Do me a favor, look into your camera for a minute or two, and give them a word of encouragement, because you're here because you're resilient. You're here because you have that special entrepreneur DNA. So take a moment and speak to that person's heart that's maybe on their last, "I'm done." They said, "God, I need a sign." And God sent in a Mark this week. Do me a favor, please, brother, and just give them a word of encouragement.
So I think, pre-encouragement is the reality that being an entrepreneur is difficult. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But if it's in your DNA to do it, and you can't settle to be an employee somewhere, you're not happy doing that, then you got to be an entrepreneur, then just know that the struggles are going to be there. The number one thing I would recommend is that if you're struggling like I was in sales or in networking, is then go find somebody who's successful at it and be a part of their sphere and figure out, how can I do this? You don't have to spend money to acquire knowledge. Now, you probably will have to spend money to acquire expertise, refined expertise that takes time, but you can at least get in the ballpark, right? You don't have to be a major league player to go to the game and learn a few things, right? What's the pitcher doing? What's the catcher doing? What's the first baseman doing? You can learn stuff, right? That can be a starting place for you, but you have to surround yourself with people who are successful at where it is that you want to be, and then start making progress. And don't be afraid to invest smartly into that thing that it is that you need, but understand what it is and why you need it and what it's going to produce for you. If you don't know those things, slow your roll, and then, take a step back before you take a step forward on investing those dollars that maybe your spouse is going to be like, what are you spending money on? Why are you spending time over here, right? What is, spending 3 nights a week at networking events? What's that doing for your business? That's doing for our family? Have an answer for that.
That's powerful. What should the world know about Marc Ebinger, brother?
Well, I think that I am a people first type of person. I like to give. I really enjoy giving to other folks, which is why I like networking so much, because it doesn't cost me anything to give a lot to you. If, like, I had a connection just recently, just one of many, where it turned into, this guy's an established business owner, and it's my connection for him led to a connection that is going to double or triple his annual revenue from that. And that to me is a complete win, complete celebration. He's excited when he sees me. I like that because I like to be liked. I think a lot of us like to be liked, right? And when we can create a lot of value for somebody, they're going to like us. So that's something that I'm super passionate about, that I don't really talk about a lot. So yeah, that would be the one thing I think that is not everybody knows, but is truly a part of who I am and what I enjoy.
So think about what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to ask yourself this question right now. Do I add value on a daily basis? Yeah. Do you listen to the show right now? Do you add value on a daily basis? Because the truth is this, is the marketplace is going to reward you according to the value you deliver to it. Write that down. The marketplace is going to reward you according to the value you deliver to it. And if you're not delivering value on a consistent basis, how do you expect the world, how do you expect the marketplace to reward you for that? You can't expect $100,000 in revenue if you're only delivering $10,000 in value. You can't expect to have $1 million business if you're only delivering $100,000 in value. So you have to deliver the value that you want in reference to the revenue you want. If you want $1 million a year, well then deliver $1 million in value to the marketplace. Man, you're just an amazing guest, Mark. Let me ask you this. What's a scripture or a quote that you rely on in times of adversity?
Oh, I'm not a big scripture quoter, but certainly the
I got one. When in doubt, call Mark.
so I think first and foremost that we're loved above and beyond everybody, right? Beyond our spouse, beyond our kids, beyond our pet. You know what I mean? It's like we're loved. We are valued. We're highly valued. We are extremely complex and powerful beings, right? The body's ability to do stuff is amazing. So you can literally look at yourself and you can look around and you can see there's a lot of value in you as a person. So we're loved, first off. So I think that's what is that we're valuable. Yeah.
Somebody's listening to our episode. They want to connect with you, Mark. How do we go about doing that, sir?
So I'm online. Instagram is at Marc Ebinger. It's Mark with a C. Of course, Facebook, you can find me the same way, but you can also get on my Let's Talk Business podcast out there. Just look for Let's Talk Business, and then put my name, first name, Mark. That's the easiest way to find me on everything. My website is Crukus.com. That's CRUKUS.com. And then SA Talk Radio is my podcast one. But yeah, I'm easy to find.
Well, and actually, Mark has a very, very. I was blessed to be a guest on his podcast. I had such a fun time. I mean, it was a great time. It's live in the studio, and I want to thank you again for having me on your podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, connect with Mark. If you know he does a lot of great things. If you have a business that's growing and you're like, man, what do I do? Right? I can't. Ladies and gentlemen, duplicate yourself. How do you do that? Hire Mark and his team. He has a group of VAs ready to help you right now, and it's just a couple of. You know what? What's the best number to call you at, Mark?
210 960 8210. See, it's my office number, which I forget sometimes. 210 960 8210. Yeah, that's my office number.
I figured you would have that one memorized, but no worries. We're going to have all that information in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. And that's a wrap for this week's episode. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, reach out to us. Go to danielgomezglobal.com, fill out our free entrepreneurs assessment, and better yet, go get a copy of our book, The Makings of a Millionaire Mind. We've sold tens of thousands of copies. We've told many, many lives. As a matter of fact, May 24th and 25th, here in San Antonio, Texas, live at the Norris Conference Center, 2 days of intense. We're bringing in multi-millionaire Roy Schnarr. He's going to accompany me in this boot camp. It's going to change your life. It's going to change your business. We've helped thousands of people live. We want you to be one of them. So we'll see you May 24th, 25th. Go to Eventbrite right now and get your ticket for the Makings of a Millionaire Mind boot camp. And until next week, we're going to have another epic guest for you here on the Daniel Gomez Inspires Show. Thank you for tuning in. We wouldn't have a show without you. And once again, Mark, thank you for being a guest this week.
You bet, buddy. Thanks a lot.
This is Daniel Gomez Inspires, and thank you for listening to our show today. Please share this episode with a friend, leave us a review, and subscribe to our show. And for listening to our show today, I want to give you a free gift. I want to invite you to our Millionaire Mind community. Text the word millionaire, that's millionaire, to 210-942-5059. Yes, join our community today and receive millionaire affirmations, inspirational quotes on a weekly basis. That's 210-942-5059. Text the word millionaire today and join our community. And once again, thank you for listening to our show.